A few years ago, I watched clips from the aftermath of the O.J. Simpson trial. The media was interviewing people and asking them for their opinions, what they thought about the outcome in the trial. And there was a difference in opinion, and that difference was based upon race. If a black person was interviewed, they seemed more or less to say that they were delighted, they were ecstatic, they were over the moon that O.J. Simpson had got off scot-free. They were dying to do a jig of joy. They were dying to sing and to shake their booty. They didn't care about the evidence, the overwhelming evidence against O.J. Simpson. They didn't seem to care whether O.J. Simpson had carried out those murders or not. All they cared about was that he got away with it. And it was something, in their eyes, it was something to be celebrated. It was, they were scoring one against the system that for so long had kept the black man down. So the idea of justice and everyone being equal before the law and the idea of overwhelming evidence, they didn't give a damn about any of that. That didn't even enter the equation. They didn't process any of that. Their opinions were completely based on emotion. On the other hand, the white people that were interviewed, they said they were disappointed in the justice system. They felt that the justice system was now in trouble because, according to them, the justice system treated everyone as individuals. It didn't matter your race or your creed. If you were guilty of a crime, if there was overwhelming evidence against you, then you should face the consequences for your actions. Everyone was responsible for their own actions, regardless of race, regardless of religion. It was difficult for some of the white people to say that because they've been brought up on the idea that blacks were throughout time mistreated, treated very cruelly. But yet they believed in the idea of justice and equality, and therefore they believed that O.J. Simpson shouldn't have got away scot-free. As I was watching these clips, I was thinking that our idea of justice, our, in inverted commas, our justice system really is on the ropes, and it has nosedived in the last number of years. The amount of horrendous cases with overwhelming evidence against the perpetrator, and how the perpetrator has been let go, doesn't even have a criminal record for the most heinous of crimes. It shows us how quickly things can deteriorate. And recently there was a case in England, I think it was in Manchester airport. It's going back maybe a year, 2 years now when it happened, but the verdict only came out the other week, and there was some physical assault going on in the airport, and a policeman and 2 policewomen came to intervene, and a couple of guys, there were people of colour, brown people, they attacked the police practically. The police came to try and stop them, and then they turned on the police, and the policeman was more or less on his own. He had 2 policewomen with him, but they were absolutely useless. One of the women, she got her nose broken from, one of the guys, one of the people of colour. But it went to court and there was a jury. This is what I've heard anyway, and people can correct me if I'm wrong. There was video evidence of, the people of colour assaulting the police. And as far as I know, the people of colour are not going to prison. So then you have to ask the question, who was on that jury? A member, what is it they say? Your peers, members of your peers or something. So, was there someone on that jury who's from the same ethnic group as those guys? Is there someone on that jury who's of the same religion? So not just the same ethnic group, but the same religion. Is this why the jury couldn't reach a decision and it got struck out or whatever? And you look at the Henry Nowak thing. He was killed on the streets and the whole system was against him. Instead of him getting urgent medical treatment, and I'm not saying it would have saved his life, but we'll never know that now. But instead of him getting urgent medical treatment, the police were talking to the knife man, the stabber, the attacker, the killer, the alleged killer. Yeah. And they were talking about racism. And they believed, seemingly from going by reports, they seemed to believe that what the attacker, the knife man, was saying was the truth. Because he's higher up the totem pole. If he says it was racism, then the police, they have to change tactics very, very quickly. And if the person of colour says that guy over there, he's saying, he wasn't stabbed at all, he must be drunk, I think he's drunk. If that's the conversation that's going on while a young man is bleeding out and leaving the land of the living, that's not a justice system. That's a disaster for the individual. The whole system in this case, because of all the bureaucracy and all the propaganda of the last number of decades, people like Henry Nowak are left to die because what's more important is to investigate claims of racism, etc. So to sum up, just to go back, the O.J. Simpson trial was first blood. And since that time, a lot of blood has been shed in Europe, in North America, in Australia, etc. Because the justice system that we were brought up to respect no longer exists.